Hey, everybody. Let me know if you guys have any issues hearing me. If you have any audio issues on my end, just let me know in the event channel. We are going to get started, so appreciate you guys hopping on. This is Immunify's first Hacker Hangout of 2020. So we know we got a bunch of you here, a bunch of new guys new people that are in this channel. And yeah, just want to welcome everybody. Happy New Year, first of all. Happy New Year, Waffles. And yeah, I guess want to just again bring everybody in. Just the little bit of a summary. So the Hacker Hangouts is basically for just an open floor discussion, really. If you have any questions for other people in the space, you have questions for the team in Immunify, just anything in general, whether it be things that are strategies, things that you guys are roadblocks that you guys are running into. If you guys haven't done so yet. Also, another thing that I want to point out is to sign up for the Amunify mailing list, as well as subscribing to subscribing here to the new Bug Bounties channel. That's where you'll get the most up-to-date announcements on bug bounties that are released, essentially getting the first look at it before as they roll out. Like I said on the last Hacker Hangout, I send out the emails. There's a launch team that's here pushing out launches. But yeah, I guess to kick things off, aside from that, and a happy New Year, just want to open the floor up for if anybody has any questions or anybody wants to start off the discussions in terms of cool exploits or interesting exploits that you've run across, maybe some strategies or roadblocks or questions that you have, or any resources that you'd like to be pointed or directed towards. I'd like to open up the floor for you guys, and let's get this kick started and moving. Feel free to raise your hand. I'll bring you up and bring you up on stage. Also,
if you don't want to ask your own question, you can also drop it in the event channel, and we'll ask it for you.
Yep, you can also drop it in the event channel as well. Thanks, Valley. Also, cool things too for those that are getting started. There are a few awesome guides that were just posted, probably within the last 2 weeks. First one being by our one resident hacker here, Sleepy. I'm not even sure if he's on the call today. I don't see him, but
he's right here.
He's here. Yeah, I see him. There you are. But he wrote an awesome guide called "Hacking the Blockchain." I'll throw that into the chat. Very, very thorough, and it's by no means is it the be-all, end-all guide of getting started, but it's a perfect segue into forming a really solid foundation and a solid baseline in terms of understanding and learnings. But I'll drop that into event channel. Thank you, Darby. I just saw you threw that in there. Waffles. Yeah, it's a really, really solid guide. There's a few more other ones that are out there, but this is the one that I've actually been sharing with a lot of people that are starting to are new into the space, and they've been having a lot of awesome value off of it. The other one that is good too is just a guide to submitting bugs on Amunify. This one's a solid one as well. This is just essentially how to get started, or just I would say like a high level view of essentially bug submissions, the process, how essentially the whole process of finding a critical or a vulnerability, submitting onto Immunify, and what to expect in terms of for example, payout, response, and essentially back and forth between you as the hacker, Amunify, as well as the project that is currently being involved. Yeah, no worries, Sleepy. It's pretty much. I know you've left. It's a lot more stuff than this. I credit also to CIA officer. He put together a comprehensive guide. I think on his GitHub. I'd have to go back and look at it, but it covers a lot of stuff too. And this is just scratching the surface. But like I said, Sleepy, there's a few people that I've shared this with that found a ton of value off of this. So awesome job putting it together, and big props as well. Let me see. There's a few other guides here. Let me see. The one where we're talking, and there's a few like learning things as well in terms of, for example, like cryptography and signatures. Also, if you haven't seen this one, I know Sam joined us on the last call, but this one's a good one too. This is basically pretty much an interview with Sam, which is a really, really, really solid article, essentially highlighting his mindset, how he runs through this whole process, his kind of go-tos in terms of things that he uses, some tools. So it could provide some insight, how into his process. Maybe it might refine yours. Maybe it might be something that you find a few nuggets in there. Again, by all means, is not the be-all, end-all of things that you should do, but it's like a good guide in terms of, opening up some options and being able to either expand your skill set, your tool set, and and the things that you're working with. But again, that's a good one too, Mohammed. That's actually Sam's a listener today, so I'm not gonna bring him on. But it's not Sam, as you can tell. But awesome, yeah. So we got a good group here, guys. So feel free to raise your hand, hop on stage if you guys got any questions, things that, like I said, that you've run across that have been interesting. But I'll open the floor for anybody that wants to, either hop on stage or drop a question in the event channel chat.
Yeah, and even though Sam says he's not talking, we got like a few really big names here, like definitely Sam and Sleepy. I'm trying to see who else I recognize. But yeah, so if anybody has legitimate, like, how do you make a fuck ton of money hacking smart contracts type questions, these are the guys to ask.
Yeah, you got a Sheik as well. Hey man, I don't mean to call you out, but just saying hello. But yeah, there's Valley, what was the what was the last article, the one that was released by Immunify at the beginning of the year, who was talking about protecting about 100 billion in user funds. Can you summarize that for us a little bit, or?
Here, let me dig that up. I'm trying to figure out which one we're talking about here.
That was let me see if I can pull that up.
Fuck man, we post a lot of articles.
Yeah, it was. So it was so this is the one I was talking about, which is basically Immunify's crypto losses report. So there.
Oh.
You know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, let me see if I can dig it up.
Yeah.
It was the amount of crypto that's been stolen, like, over the course of the year, right?
Yeah.
Fucking staggering. Yeah, where's that post?
I'll drop it into, I got it. I'll drop it into the event channel as well. So yeah, so that's basically the crypto losses report just for 2021. So Adrian's dropping some cool links as well in terms of learnings. So a lot of postmortems that we post up, you can recreate a lot of the different hacks in there. So the recent one that was a pretty big one, I believe Polygon paid out 2.2 million to the white hack. I guess, yeah, 2.2 million. This is for a Polygon vulnerability in terms of what's called a lack of balance check. So that was interesting. There's a question by Plaguecrafter, which is, how do you guys deal with imposter syndrome? I guess more, what do you call it? More imposter, as in like I guess more context. Can you provide a little bit more context around that?
I know that like one thing I can speak to, not from myself, but from I forget exactly who this was. But one of our like best hackers, I guess they'll remain nameless for now, just because I can't exactly remember which. Like not long before he became a $1 million hacker, was a grocery store clerk, which is wild to me. And if I remember correctly, looking at his like job history, he was the kind of guy who, like me, is not built out for holding down a job and winds up getting fired or quitting way too often. But of course, like hacking smart contracts is not a job. Hacking smart contracts is the kind of thing you can do naked in your, like, doesn't matter, right? There's nobody telling you to do it. There's no schedule, nothing. And that wound up being where he found himself becoming a millionaire. So I would kind of say that, like, one thing about imposter syndrome is, especially in a place like this where this doesn't resemble any other real recognizable type of career path that I can think of that's existed, is that if you have not done as well as you wanted to in the past, this is an entirely new field. This is a whole new way of making money and becoming useful. So all past failure or whatever is no indication of future success in this kind of world.
Yeah, it's an interesting perspective on it. Yeah, so Lou posted the preview of today's POAP. So I'll throw out links in there in a few minutes. So Mohammed, you wrote, regarding the Polygon hack, the payout was way lower than the standard 10%. What's our opinion on this? So the 10%, I don't think 10% is really the standard. I mean, it'd be nice if it was the standard. I think it also depends on the discretion of the project as well. To be frank, I'm not honest. I'm honestly not too well versed in the details of what happened on the Polygon side and how that transpired. That wasn't something I was involved with. I guess, Adrian, if you're here, if you can provide some insight there. But again, like usually the 10% is something actually that it's a good thing that you brought that up. That's something that we wrote an article way back when in terms of the new bug bounty standard. Essentially being about 10% of the funds at risk being at least some sort of good, kicking off point. But again, like it also depends on the project's discretion. So sometimes like we have a say and sometimes we don't have a say in it. Let's see.
Regarding the 10%, please remember that the reward that the first white hat got, because it was a split reward. The first white hat got 2.2 million and the second got 500 Matic, I believe, or something less. I can't remember exactly. So But still, looking at the amount that was possible to steal with that bug, yeah, the 2.2 is not enough compared to that. But still, in the realms of the bug bounties that we pay, that's a pretty big amount to be paid for a bug. Could it be higher? Yeah, probably. But still, we're pioneers here at Amunify regarding the payouts. So last year we made our first payout of 1 million, and that was a big thing. Now we're breaking 2.2 million. So let's hope that this year we will break another checkpoint. Maybe 3 million payout will be made. We'll see. But in my opinion, projects also need to maybe have more money dedicated to the payouts, because yeah, 10% is nice, but I don't think that it's still a standard across the industry. Of course, when some projects are hacked and the black hat makes the refunds the fund to the projects, he can often keep the 10%, but in those cases, most often the amount of money stolen is around $10 million and not $20 million. I don't have anything more to add. So if you guys want to add something to what I said, please do. And if not, we can move to another subject.
No, that's perfect, Adrian. Thanks for the insight there. I think it's also, I think it's good insight in terms of, again, like the process that's happening behind the scenes. So not everything is always set in stone. But appreciate you hopping in there with that insight. Hey, Daniel, nice to see you again. I appreciate you just hopping on stage.
Thanks.
Happy New Year, man.
Thank you. Yeah, I was going to answer the imposter one, but I stuck that in the event channel instead. But talking about the bug bounty payment, something that I've noticed is if you take the total amount that was saved by bug bounties and divide it by the total amount paid to bug bounty hunters, that's definitely nowhere near 10%. But that's almost entirely due to several very big projects with huge amounts at stake that paid a capped amount, paid an awesome amount to bug bounty hunters, but still, just because the amounts at stake were so high, that kind of threw off the averages a lot.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So it's really that cap that kind of brings down the averages, because most bounties are 10% up to X amount of money.
Right. That makes sense. That definitely makes sense. I think that's also a key there. Is that again, like when these bug bounties are being created, there's like you said, Daniel, caps that are being put on for example, some of the criticals. So sometimes it could be flexible. Again, it depends. Again, like it's also at the discretion of the project as well, for the ones that we're working with. But yeah, also I appreciate you hopping in on the imposter syndrome question. And then Valley also threw up a good article that was written by CKK, SEC, in terms of how to stay motivated when hunting for bugs. That's a good mindset article that most people don't really look into. I think that's also important. I know we touched on the last one when Sam CZ was on the call as well. I think one of the other questions that was asked, Blackie wrote, could you guys talk about fuzzing tools that you find more useful if you use any, or if not, do you guys use more analytics driven, more analytics driven tools for bug hunting?
Does manual code review counts?
Does manual code review count? Yeah, I guess so. I guess that counts. I do know a lot of the guys here do manual code review, mainly because most of the time when, for example, projects go under audits, I would say a good portion of them, just on the initial phase, use automated tools before there's any manual review, and plus the scope becomes a little bit more specific. So usually, this is from my discussions with other people, which is they normally don't use automated tools because it's kind of repetitive. So they just go straight to manual code review.
So from my
agree
point
with
of view, go ahead, Adrian.
Okay, thanks. From my point of view, when I was starting as an auditor and I was still learning, and don't get me wrong, I'm still learning. I use Slither and Echidna, but pretty quickly, in regards to Slither, I noticed that tool puts out a lot of false negatives. And it was useful, for example, when I wanted to see if I haven't missed, for example, some overflow, underflow, or the div before the multiply or something like that, something easy to miss. And that was helpful. Or, for example, checking if ERC20 standard was properly used. That was the only three things that I used later on, just to verify if I haven't missed anything when doing manual review. But I spend more time verifying false positives than I would really get any value from the outputs from the Slither. So that's why I pretty quickly moved to manual review. And after time, after auditing multiple projects, you start to see some patterns. And you can quickly verify, okay, yeah, I see a reply signature attack here. Okay, that's fine. Something that automatic tuning wouldn't catch.
So from the point of view of trying to keep a protocol secure, we tried both formal verification like Satora, fuzzing like Echidna, and Slither. All of them kind of take a lot of work up front, which is probably why they're less useful in their current state for finding vulnerabilities in contracts quickly. Formal verification in particular is probably the highest level of pain to work with because it's very, very difficult to formally specify exactly what you want your contract to do. And even if you do, you may have gotten it wrong and, some giant obvious bug to a human can slip right through. Fuzzing is a bit easier because it's more like writing unit tests, but it's still kind of a slow process. You don't really know if you really missed something unless, it's a good thing to have in your loop. And similar with Slither, we found value in just keeping it turned on, set basically to show just the highest category of things because the smaller ones are just noise. And for securing a protocol where you're putting a lot of effort into it over a long period of time, just having these things run automatically every time somebody makes a PR is a lot of value because, a really likely thing is you just slip something stupid into your code. And, a tool like this will ping off on it. But I don't think, other than like a Slither check for high vulnerability things, if you were trying to use one of these tools for finding vulnerabilities, I think what you'd need to do is kind of define your own set of rules to look for a specific problem and then have some kind of automated system that lets you check it over hundreds of different contracts from different projects and stuff and look for that specific vulnerability. Just because there's so much work time into setting up looking for a vulnerability.
I agree totally with what you said, Daniel. But to add to that, I think at this moment, maybe I'm wrong, so correct me. I think using Slither and writing Echidna test is more beneficial for the developers itself than for a potential auditor. Because as you said, it takes a lot of time to set up it properly, and most of the times during audit you don't have that luxury of having much time to do it properly. That's why we result into doing a manual review. But having a skilled developer that knows how to write a fuzzing test and how to set up splitter tests and just run in the CI/CD pipeline, that would be great, in my opinion, for a project. But I'm not sure how many or if any projects are actually integrated like that.
Now, a really cool tool that somebody actually found a website vulnerability in our code with, not serious, just on a marketing website, but it was was something, and it wasn't even used code, but GitHub now has a system where you can write rules and have these rules checked across all GitHub repos, and they can actually trace through code to find, some value. You can, in this case, it was an unescaped HTML into an email. And somebody was able to write code that ran across everything open on GitHub, powered by GitHub, that was able to track down and follow variables through code, and find one that got through.
Quite interesting. Just answering one question from the chat. From Dr. G. What's your thought for someone with no solid dev experience but been in the crypto and DeFi since the beginning? Would they still have a chance to be successful, or is dev experience a hard requirement? Dev experience maybe not, but understanding the code that you're reading is a hard requirement because you need to understand what you are checking. And that's mostly you gain by having an actual dev experience. I don't know if I helped with that answer or not.
I think that makes sense. I think in order for you to be successful as a bug bounty hacker, I think having dev experience is key, and being able to kind of pour through contracts in the code, and also understanding essentially the logic of what's happening, in terms of what the code is asking for and what the code actually does. And this is something that multiple hackers have told me, which is basically documentation lies. So usually the documentation is the last place they go to confirm anything. Most of the time it's code first, especially when looking at any exploits they're looking at in terms of what's actually happening, because the code dictates what's actually happening in the protocol itself, and sometimes the documentation isn't being updated as frequently as it should be. So I think it would be fair to say that dev experience is probably a good baseline. What I've noticed too with a lot of people too is like you don't have to be, for example, like this top tier auditor or top tier, like one of the top Solidity developers in the space. Like you just have to understand what's actually happening with the language. So it's not as if you need to be this Solidity savant or coding savant in order to be successful here. Another question that I just saw here is, this is interesting. So Naxos wrote, my question would be how to transfer from training on Ctfs, which are capture the flags, to real bug hunting. It seems like a big step. Is it something that he just dives in? Does he practice with postmortems? Any other strategies or resources about this methodology? Daniel, feel free to, or Adrian, to feel free to hop in there. This is out of my wheelhouse, but also if anybody else wants to hop in here, in terms of how essentially to go from training on Ctfs to actual real bug hunting.
Well, as Sam Sisang said there, the Paragram CDF challenges were the most like the real world that I've ever seen. Anyway, that's pretty much like your experience there. So if you're wondering, like, I don't know, they're just very like real world challenges. I don't know any magic solution other than doing it and constantly, anytime a hack does happen, figure out how it happened, and then you'll build up a mental model of how they happen. But there's, at some point you just have to start looking.
Yeah, I agree. And just to add to that, what helped me during my auditing journey was just to read, for example, audit reports from Trail of Bits, Consensus, etc. And just understanding the bugs that they're reporting and checking the code base if the code base is available. And reading postmortems from the hacks of bugs that was prevented also helps a lot.
And there's kind of a weird thing where the bugs that are easy to catch, that developers write a lot of bugs, and some bugs are a lot easier to catch in audits, and so they show up in audit reports very often, although hopefully not as many of them actually make it out there. And then there's always kind of the new cutting edge way that attackers have figured out that things are vulnerable, but auditing hasn't quite caught up to or is hard to find. So throwing that out there.
No, that's awesome. Some good insight here. I'm just catching up in the chat. Actually, there's one question to you, Daniel, from CKK. He wrote, "What do you do when an exploit happened? What do you do when an exploit happened in order to find the reason? What is the first steps? Do you analyze the TX, then break it down step by step? I guess he's trying to figure out what your process is when you find an exploit."
Yeah, and to some extent, this depends on how urgent it is, and there's several different approaches you can take in a war room situation where things are happening right now. Usually people just kind of naturally take different approaches, and that way, but are coordinating with each other, and that way you get kind of the fastest figuring out what happens in parallel. So the quickest thing to do is use something like ETX or some kind of thing that breaks down the transaction. You can also use Tenderly or whatever tool you like there to break down the transaction that happened into what it called and what money moved around. And that gives you the big picture, and sometimes you can almost figure it out from that point, or it will, it'll kind of show you often roughly where the problem is. The two other things to look at are the attacker's code. You can decompile the bytecode and then kind of stitch that together. That it's just kind of solid work, but eventually you get there and eventually you figure it out. And then the third route is looking at the victim contract for the bug, kind of informed by those other two things. So in between the attacker's contract, the victim code, and following the money, that gets you down to what happened. And then usually you want to verify that afterwards, if you feel like it, by actually doing some kind of POC against a mainnet fork to make sure you really understood what was going on. But in the end, you really have to get your eyes onto the actual code in the victim contract that was exploited. It's easy sometimes for me, because I just am optimistic about bugs, to assume that I found a bug, and that's something I personally do wrong often enough, is just assume I found a bug because I think I found a bug instead of going to the last level. But starting again, look at the attack code, look at the victim code, and look at what happened during the transaction and what called what.
Yes, hopefully that answered your question, CKK. Let me know if you have a follow-up to that.
Yeah, I'm going to add one more thing. Oftentimes there's a tremendous amount in an attack that just has to do with stealing the money successfully, but doesn't really focus on the vulnerability. So often as a auditor or as somebody defending a protocol, what you're really interested in is how they, what the vulnerability is, and that often requires eventually kind of boiling away all the other parts of the transaction that aren't related to the vulnerability, but are instead related to the engineering of making a hack.
Cool. There was a follow up also as well that just so Tom InfoSec was also directing the question to you, Dan, which is basically, is there any monitoring solutions that alert on suspicious transactions to inspect?
I guess they're coming online, and I think Open Zeppelin is trying to sell one. People are making them better, but I don't think that there's just an answer nothing I can point to right now.
Yep, that's fair. So Sam, there's a few people asking when the next CTF is. So feel free to hop in the chat and let everybody know what the timeline is for it. Seems as if there's a few people waiting for you for that one. Okay, so Sam wrote the next CTF is whenever they get around to writing the challenges. I guess that's fair. So sooner rather than later, but later, later more than sooner. Please tell the hackers to stop hacking for a bit. Yeah, well, I don't know if that's going to happen, but I'll throw that out there. But cool. So I'll start throwing POAP links into the chat while we're waiting for some other questions. Actually, I see one. I don't know what this is referring to, but IRS inspector, he wrote, "Are there red team engagements focused on blockchain projects?" I'm not sure if that's if anybody knows what's going on there, but hop in if you do. All right, I'm gonna start throwing some pop links into the chat. Should be plenty for everybody.
Well, hold up. No. So we're fixing the POAP. There was a slight typo. I'll give that a second.
There's a typo in the POAP.
Yeah, it says 2021, bro.
2021. All right. Okay.
Mistake stamps that have a slight error in them are the most valuable stamps.
They're the rarest ones, exactly. Yeah, it's okay, Sam. You can keep shilling. Chicken Ramen asks, "Can you have the 2021?" Yeah, it does still feel like 2021. Let's see. Let's see what else we got. 2020. Man, Adrian, you're going back 2 years now. So some really good resources being posted. Advise you guys take a look into these. 2020 part 3. So 242 wrote, "Are there any upcoming major changes for blockchain Web3 in 2022?" That's an interesting one. In terms of major changes, I mean, I think I guess, correct me if I'm wrong, or at least add some more insight here. The way that I look at it is, I think the microscope will be under or more focused on not just DeFi as the space grows, but also layer 2s as well, and even some chains like Polygon as well. I think I think that's where a lot of the focus is going to be on. I just ran into something earlier today on just reading about immutable X. So that's something that I was just taking a look at earlier today. But I think that's where I feel some of the focus is. But again, like I think everybody's perspective is different in terms of where some of the changes and creativity and developments are going to be. I know, as you know, in the past, say like we had that DeFi summer. This past late summer, we had the whole NFT craze. There's also things where, so we'll see what the next one's going to be. Everybody's saying DAOs, but I think DAOs have been kind of that sleeper topic where it's always been around. It hasn't really, got its fair share of the limelight yet, but interesting. But Mitchell asked you, Daniel, what your thoughts on any upcoming major changes for blockchain Web3 in 2022 might be.
I think that there's likely to be a large quantity of bugs on alt chains. I've already seen this. Mainnet's kind of getting expensive and a little bit boring with, and a lot of the both quote unquote innovation as well as stupidity is kind of happening much more rapidly. If you can deploy a contract for $30 or $5 or 10 cents, that's really different than if you have to spend several $1,000s to deploy a contract, just in terms of having a lot more people doing things. So I also think that Rust-based contracts are likely to have a lot more bugs than we're currently, or than kind of flagship Solidity projects, just because it's a new environment and it seems like actually a much more difficult environment, at least from a distance. So that's kind of on the bug hunting thing. I would expect there to be a lot more activity, not necessarily in total dollar volume, but in bugs found and projects kind of on side chains. As far as what the next big thing in crypto is, no idea, it just shows up.
If we all knew what the next big thing in crypto would be, then we would all invest in that.
Yep.
Yeah.
But I think for the near term, gas prices will continue to go up. And so, on the writing contract side, you better be efficient on mainnet, which can lead to bugs from that. But yeah, my only prediction is gas prices will be more expensive in 3 months than they are in the past 3 months.
Nice. Anybody else? Anybody else want to throw in some thoughts? I know like everybody's talking about ETH 2.0. Everybody's been waiting on ETH 2.0 CKK. So we'll see how that transpires. There's one question. Monkey Paw asked if there's any good resources for learning about bridge hacking. So if anybody has any resources, throw them out into the chat.
Yeah, I agree with Toasted Steak Sandwich. He says bridges will be a big target, and we've already started to see that as there becomes more and more chains. There are more and more bridges, and they hold more and more money, and bridges are really hard to get right. So I agree very much with Toasted. And it's somewhat a different, while there's Solidity skill, it's somewhat requires more skill in different things for bridges.
Interesting. So Mr. Quinkle wants to know, maybe this is directed towards you, Adrian, if there's anything in the works regarding the processes at Amunify itself.
I don't know what I can say.
He's looking for some alpha.
Michel can hop up on the stage and answer that. because I don't want this hacker hangout to be my last hacker hangout.
That's fair. That's fair. Another one, IRS asks if we see any improvement in current tools. It's, I guess, current tools used for hacking, obviously. I would assume so. I would say as the space evolves, there should be some sort of evolution in tools. The development side is not currently my strongest suit, but I have seen a few things that have popped up, at least like major things, as the DeFi space grows. I don't know how relevant those are for you guys here. But it's definitely something that you can safely assume that it is a true statement where, as the space grows, as it expands, as more protocols and, cool things are being developed, so should the tool sets as well. I wouldn't see why it wouldn't evolve into anything, or why it would stay stagnant and not evolve.
So I've been working with crypto stuff for, I don't know, 3 or 4 years now, and the tools have become radically better. It was kind of like the old days of working with browsers. From a developer point of view, everything was broken all the time, and it was, I joked about making a t-shirt that had a percentage of how you spend your time, and about 2/3 of it was bugs in between MetaMask and Ganesh at the time, but anyway, it's gotten so much better. Just the fact that forking mainnet locally is easy and trivia, and you can even use something like Tenderly to get you like a hosted fork or something, is a really powerful something. Either maybe I'm just really slow and didn't catch on that this was possible, but in the last year, that's probably one of the biggest changes to my workflow, is that you basically get to do everything live when exploring a protocol or even developing on a protocol. And it makes, instead of spending like 3 or 4 hours trying to get set up with a replica of the contracts you're trying to investigate, you can just start playing with them in 45 seconds and have all their downstream dependencies and everything they tie into.
I see Mitchell. Oh, Mitchell, if you want to hop in here with some insight, I see you're hopped on stage, so I'll give you the floor.
Sure. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I got you.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I got volunteered. Thanks, Adrian. I obey.
No problem.
Short version. So we have big plans. Last year, we basically spent the entirety of the year in discovery mode and just keeping up with the problems in the market. Consequently, I think we're all very proud of the achievements between the community and the team of what we achieved. We saved a lot of people from a lot of harm, but we're pretty cognizant that there is so much farther left to go in our application. We have a very, very long list of things to improve. We lack everything from leaderboards to better automated notification systems, to smoother workflows and UIs, to tooltips, to better guides, to better education. Like there's just so much missing that would dramatically improve the experience for you guys. So this year is about 2 big challenges for us. Number one is we want to dramatically improve the experience of our users, most especially you guys on the hacking side. We want to build out better trust assurances. So our vision is that every time you're going to work on a bug bounty program, you should know what's going to happen if you find a certain type of vulnerability. Today, bug bounty programs have improved a lot in crypto. We've done a lot of improvements compared to where they started, where every time you disclose a bug, it's kind of like a toss-up as to whether you'll be treated well. It's a lot better. thanks to the work that we've done. But now we want that institutionalized across as many projects as possible and to make that as transparent and as visible as possible, as well as giving you guys all the tools that you need to both build your skills up and to kind of handle the whole workflow from end to end. So, what's in store for this year? Many improvements to the application. Number one, much better improvement in terms of the quality of experience that you guys have with the bug bounty programs. Number two, so that they're much smoother deals. As far as we're concerned, every time that you guys are submitting a bug, you're doing a transaction, and we want that transaction to be as smooth as possible. So we're coming up with all sorts of ways to remove the wrinkles of that. And number three, someone mentioned something about the protocol that may or may not be in the works. It's definitely something that we're very attentive to, but we'll talk more about that kind of stuff over the time to come. We are definitely blockchain supremacists here. So life exists on chain. Anyways, I hope that was a quick and sufficient answer for where this year is going. It's going to be much more focused on making the experience better for all of you guys.
Awesome. Thanks for that insight, Mitchell. So big things coming at Amunify. Just a heads up for the POAPs. If you send me, Lou Valley, or Parker a DM, we'll throw you a claim link within 24 hours when the new ones are ready. Let me see what else we got here. So I know there was one question here from DefSec. He just asked, not really a question, but a comment. Is basically, if a person earned more than $1 million from a bug bounty, are they still hunting on Immunify? The question is yes. There's a few hackers here that are currently on the Immunify platform, as well as in the chat, that have earned over $1 million and are still consistently submitting bugs or actively searching for bugs. So interesting question from 242, is transitioning from proof of work to proof of stake going to be a game changer for crypto and blockchain ecosystems? I would possibly say yes. I think it's just a different, I'll say just yes, in general. I mean, without any technical insight. I think it'll be interesting, especially for me starting off in the Ethereum space. I think it'll change a lot of things. It'll change a lot of how some of these protocols are run, essentially, not really change how a lot of these protocols are run, but essentially how the base or the foundation of how these protocols are operating, especially the ones that are on mainnet Ethereum. But yeah, Adrian put in the two short and long answers, which is yes and yes. There's some talk about Sleepy taking a look at Starks and Snarks. I think that's interesting as well. I think that's a pretty cool
regarding that, I'll be putting, I don't know if it will be in Q1 or Q2, a guide to the zero knowledge proofs, but that will be a complicated article. I mean, complicated for me to really understand it, so I can translate it in an easy way for you guys. Yeah. For example, the signature article took me 3 weeks to put down together. So I assumed with the zero knowledge, it would be an even longer time for me to write that. But it's in my plan to put out such an article on our meeting page. So look for it.
Yeah, but I can't imagine that being an easy article to write, Adrian.
Yeah, yeah. Because what we're trying to do, and hopefully we're doing it successfully, we're taking like complex subjects and provide as easy explanation as possible, while still keeping the substance of the topic.
Sleepy, it's a competition now. So who's gonna write the article first? Also,
Remember who is in control of the publish button.
I guess you can collaborate with Sleepy Adrian, because he's putting together a piece together for that. Also, if you can provide some insight in terms of this is directed towards you, Adrian, because IRS inspector added this, which is basically how could he or how could someone submit an article to Immunify? Is this something that they would just submit to you, to Jonah, myself? I don't know if you have
I think
a more specific process.
To me, not necessarily. I think the best person to submit the article would be Jonah.
Okay,
Because
cool.
then we can verify if this is the subject that we want to publish on Immunify. But in general, just keep asking on the Discord. And if you have anything prepared, just send them to Jonah, or even you can DM me and I will forward it to Jonah. And then we can just move from there.
All right, that sounds good. Yeah, that sounds like a plan. Two questions from IRS inspector. First one being, what is the minimum bounty I have to find to get that sweet hoodie? Man, I'm still waiting for my hoodie. So
When hoodie?
when hoodie is the key.
I think it's not about the amount, but I think it needs to be a valid critical report.
A critical report, yeah. So yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
from what I see is like most people, as long as it's I mean, I don't handle the hoodie side of things. I guess I don't handle the merch side of things. So I can't provide any insight there. And then, so another question would be, this is towards the Immunify team, us in general. Are you guys going to be in the Ethereum Barcelona meetup? I am currently not going to be, just because travel here from the US over to Europe is just because of COVID. It just sucks. So apparently I won't, so I won't be. So I'm not sure if Adrian, if you know if anybody else on the team that's going to be there.
Sharing, I don't have that information. I would love to go, but I don't know how things personally will come to me. So I will see. But probably someone from Immunify will be there. But I don't know if there is still a designated person to go there.
Okay, that makes sense. I mean, there's no.
Maybe Mitchell can answer that.
Yeah, I don't know if. Yeah, I don't know. Metro, are you going to be at Ethereum Barcelona, or do you know if any other team members are going to be there?
I'm not sure. So we have a few of us in Europe who could go. It's a possibility, but we all seem to enjoy spending more time in front of our computers. I have no idea why. Just totally unexpected. But it's something to think about. Anybody could post the link to Ethereum Barcelona in the chat. That would be great. We're just beginning to think about heading up to more events now that things are clearing up. So if you have any things for events, feel free to send it to me personally so I can pass it to Ivan. Ivan is really the guy who's going to be heading that up. And who knows, maybe you'll see us there.
Hey,
I certainly like the sound of it.
Darby, thanks for the link. Yeah, I think it'd be awesome. So there's a question, which is, has anyone that's been paid over $1 million bought a Lambo? Serious question. I have no clue. Usually you guys are a little bit more low key, and it's the apes and the degens that are a little bit more loud and proud with their gains. So
I know two people in real life who have cashed out crypto to buy a Lambo, and both of them were actually founders. So I don't know what that tells you, but
That's different though, Valley. That's more of like that's not like, I guess he was asking in the context of hackers, but like I said, like in terms of the profile, in terms of how I know you guys, most of you guys are very low key. I mean, like, hey, correct me if I'm wrong. If you guys are, like that loud of a car when you get paid
see,
out of a
I'd
bounty.
expect our guys to be more like cash out and buy a bunker. That's more the hacker style. That's
Mitchell would buy a Kia Sedona. I guess, practicality reigns over some of that. IRS, you wrote, is Amunify going to make a hacker school or collaborate with Securium on education? Actually, if you follow Amunify on Twitter, we regularly post a lot of educational material. It's not a formal like quote unquote hacker school per se, but we do post a lot of really good information in terms of tools, learnings, postmortems, exploits. So if you follow us on Twitter, aside from our general announcements, you get a lot of hashtag Immunify School stuff as well. So it might be and Mitchell says something may be in the works here. Well, that goes to show you how much I know. But yeah, Adrian wrote the correct hashtag Immunify School on Twitter. So yeah, so some good stuff happening up on Twitter. So I suggest you follow that. Do sign up for our mailing list to get as much update, or most recent updates on bounty launches. That's at the bottom of the immunify.com homepage. And then obviously here in Discord, all the announcements go live ASAP. Yes, IRS. CIA officer does have, there's a lot of 3-letter organizations hanging out. I'm a little bit, nervous now.
That's why the hackers on our platform won't ever buy a Lambo.
Yeah, pretty much. Exactly.
Yeah, because we have a PTSD from our own chat, IRS, CIA, FBI.
Yeah, exactly. I know. But yeah, I mean, there's a ton
you're
of
not paranoid if they're actually watching.
Oh gosh. Bitcoin event in Miami, possible. That might be possible. Maybe I might hang out there, but yeah. So like in terms of resources, there is the resources section here that Darby pointed out here. There's also postmortems. There's the Learn Blockchain Hacking event. Learn Blockchain Hacking category here. And then there's stuff on Twitter as well. So there's a lot of resources. I guess if you ask a more specific question in any of the general chats, you'll probably get a little bit more of a specific answer as well as a point in the right direction. Everybody here has been very helpful in terms of getting people information that they need. When is the next Hangout? This is usually bi-weekly. We delayed this one just because the past 2 weeks were the holidays with Christmas and New Year's, so it didn't make any sense for people to hop on there. But expect this Hangout to be every 2 weeks. Yeah, actually, Chicken Ramen. I do know a few people that have gone to Bitcoin Miami. From what I understand, there's really no Ethereum. It's basically, and I guess this is from what I hear. So I'm just relaying that over. In terms of Bitcoin Miami, it's just a lot of VCs that hang out there, and just a lot of like your Bitcoin OGs and Bitcoin peeps there. You're probably right in the fact that there's not too much Ethereum stuff going on there. So yeah, I probably wouldn't bet on it. There's a question which is, how long do you work on a bounty before moving to another? Do you do many at a time? Do you go for old first or new, or random selection from the Immunify list of bounties. So I can chime in here. I don't bug hunt personally, but I have spoken with a lot of people that have done this. So basically, they usually do one at a time. In terms of time frame for moving from working on a bounty, it really depends in terms of if they've found something that's interesting or not. But usually, from my understanding, is that they usually go from new first, or either the newest bounties that are being released or the ones that have been updated with updated assets in scope. It just depends. But most of the time, everybody looks at the new ones, but then they also look at old ones where no submissions have been done as well, because that's also ripe for opportunity. Essentially looking for things where, again, like the opportunity is there. So I wouldn't say, I think like in terms of length of time, I think that's subjective. That just depends on whether or not there's something that's interesting in the code or in the contract itself, or if it's a certain asset in scope that, for example, like the project wants to put under the microscope to take a look into. So that'd be my 2 cents. I guess if some of you other more experienced hackers want to hop in there in terms of answering that question, I think, and provide some insight in terms of like length that you guys work on bounty and, how you kind of go about your process. Submissions. We can't see this, or can we? That's true. I don't think you can actually see the submissions, because again, like a lot of the information here that's being submitted is sensitive, both in content as well as the time frame. So I guess like like I said, this is not something that I do personally. This is just stuff that, I'm around a lot and I talk to a lot of people that do this. So I would say, to refine my statement, it's probably the most recent and most recently updated ones. OPSEC question. This is interesting. Why are some of you public and others private?
That's fun.
That's an interesting question. I know for a fact a bunch of the guys or a bunch of the hackers are public because they have public profiles. So for example, like a good one, like a good example is Alex Slindwine. Maintains a relatively public profile just because he is a CTO of a project. There's other guys that hang out in the background, which is cool too. But, I don't think in the world of bug hunting, I guess, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think it makes too much of a difference whether or not you have a public or private profile. I think that's just more of a personal preference. I do know a few people that have a public profile and then bug hunt and do these sort of things under an anonymous name. So there's that as well. So it's kind of goes both ways.
We have noticed too that there's like 2 kind of classes of hacker, and one of the ways of differentiating them is that one class seems to go public and the other one private. And the public ones are much more often businessmen. They tend to be like CTOs or something. They benefit from having their name out there. It increases their actual worth. Whereas the privates, we have no idea who they are. But it's a very different, type of person. They also seem to be a lot more casual and a lot more counterculture, obviously, which seems to make sense.
Yeah, there you go. But yeah, like you see some of the responses here. So yeah, that's actually a good point. Chicken Ramen wrote a good point, because this is a lot of why a lot of people stay anonymous, which is online and real life, they kind of want to keep them separate. It's kind of like, when you do work in a company, sometimes you want to keep your personal and your business life separate. So, all right.
These answers are terrifying. One guy's
Yeah,
Pangolin goes, once I realized how easy it is to hack people, I didn't want a footprint. Fucking toasted steak sandwich lives in a dangerous country and is like scared for his life. Fuck, man.
Yeah, no, it's there's some interesting. Again, like everybody has their reasons for why they stay private, why they stay public. Again, like a lot of people stay private or have two different profiles because they don't want that target on their back, which is I think is a solid is definitely a solid argument. As a previous co-founder of a DeFi project, I know how that comes about, where everybody knows you're at the top of a project or your public profile. Everybody comes after you. Everybody tries to dox you, and that's kind of it's a little bit scary. It's definitely a little bit scary. Oh man, chicken ramen. I'm gonna start calling you Chicky from now on, moving forward. I think that's funny. And you're right. You're a little bit more free for the things that you say and can do when you're a non. Yeah. So you do have a little bit more flexibility. I know when you're a founder, you kind of have to check your words a little bit, especially when you're doing, for example, anything that's logged, like written or recorded conversations or videos or interviews, things like that. Okay. Now, Adrian, you got that to me. You got that first, which is basically, does Immunify have plans to release postmortem reports of bugs submitted on the platform once fixed? They're already doing that. There are postmortems in the postmortem channel. So if you go here on Discord, every single postmortem is written there. Sometimes ones that are outside of Amunify are being posted there. Things that we find that are interesting as well.
And just to add to that,
Yeah.
not all postmortems are created equal in terms of the bug complexity. For example, some postmortem are much easier to write, and I can be done with them with 2 or 3 days, and sometimes it takes me way longer because the bug is more complex. So it all depends on the bug that we choose to write a postmortem on. But we're trying to write as much postmortem as we can.
Yep, that's true. IRS wrote, how do you personally like this Hangout setup? Do you prefer people more speaking instead of writing? Honestly, for me, I like more people speaking, but I know the nature of you guys as well, which is, it's cool that everybody is writing here as well, because as long as there's an active discussion going on, I'm okay with it. We always have people hopping in and out of the chat. Daniel has always been a solid contributor for us. He's always provided some awesome insight. The last Hacker Hangout of 2021, if you guys missed it, if you guys were here, you guys were treated with Sam CZ on the call. And he provided some really awesome insight, was, answering a ton of questions, answering a few personal questions. But yeah, I mean, again, like this works as well, where I'm speaking, I'm answering questions. We got, Mitchell hopping on, Adrian hopping on, Daniel hopping on, or anyone else that hops on for any questions and then answers them either on stage or within the chat. But both works. Oh gosh, you guys don't be doxing each other. Let's not do that. We're a very good community here. Let's see what we got. Yeah, I know we're coming up on almost 90 minutes now, so 10 more minutes till 90 minutes. But yeah, I mean, if you guys have any more questions, if you guys want, let me see if I can find that again. If you guys want to grab a POAP, I know they weren't ready. There was an error with them, but send myself Louvre, Valley or Parker ADM. We'll send you a claim link within 24 hours.
Yeah, exactly. We want to respond immediately because the thing has to bloody mint the original token. But yeah, we'll respond within a day and we'll send you guys a mint.
Yeah, so I threw everybody's name down there. But yeah, appreciate you guys hopping on. If you guys have any more questions, we'll keep this open for a little bit longer. Any questions you have for us? Any other questions? Oh, we got one from, which is a noob's question, which is, we like noob questions as well, so it's all good. Do we have something like IETF Web 2 for Web 3 apart from official docs? I have no clue. Adrian, do you have any insight there or no?
Not really. But I created recently a thread how to go from Web 2 to Web 3 hacking on Twitter. So you can check that out. I can link that in a minute. But I don't know if there is any official docs.
Okay. So there you got it. I saw something earlier that I want to address. So Dimitro wrote, Hacker 1 goes to Web 3. No, they're still stuck in Web 2. Just use Immunify. Immunify for Web 3 and blockchain stuff only.
Dude, it's 100% true. But listen, don't mean to talk shit, but let's just say Immunify does blockchain. Hacker 1 does plenty of things. And specialists come to Immunify.
Yeah, and plus, if you take a look at size of bounty, Immunify trumps whatever Hacker 1 is putting out there. So
by like so much.
By a lot. Like, I would say 10, but 10's already on the low side for some of these. So yeah. So if you want the biggest bounties and the ones where you have the biggest incentive, you're in the right Discord and you're in the right community. So hey.
Exactly. Yeah. Sometimes I found it. I don't know if funny is a proper word for you, but sometimes on Twitter it pops up that somebody is happy that he got 2K from HackerOne. I'm like, man, check out Immunify. For a low, you can get more.
Yo, I feel like we should retweet that. Like,
we should.
Yeah, I'm trying to always comment under that hacker tweet and post, hey, check out the Immunify. We got way better bounties than you got. And by the way, congrats, really good job. But hey, check out the Immunify.
Good job, but not good enough is basically what Adrian's saying. Join Amunify. I got one question here from Naxos, which is, if everybody can chime in the chat, can a few people list the top 3 tools they use the most when bug bounty hunting? So throw that in there. What your top 3 tools are in terms of what you guys use when bug hunting. I have 0 tools, so I can't chime in here. Mouse, keyboard, internet. That is good. That's too funny. Good one. We see Slither analyze for static. Eyes. We see Ganache. Ganache seems to be a popular tool. I've run across that multiple times in terms of tools that people use.
I think most people use Brownie, Hardhat, or Truffle alongside Ganache. But in most cases, when you run a Hardhat for mainnet or Brownie for mainnet, they're spinning Ganache instance for you, so you don't need to do that yourself. Yeah, that's kind of crazy helpful. I agree. And Tenderly for checking the transaction online, so that's also awesome. helped me a lot when verifying some hacker claims or just checking the transaction that led to funds being stolen.
Cool. The other one that was asked to, which is kind of on a related note, which is what's everybody's ideal dev tool environment preference? Any Emacs hackers? There was one, let me see if I could find it. There was one very good thing about setting up test environments. Let me see if I could find that article, and I'll post it in the chat for you guys. But if you guys want to chime in here in terms of recommended environments, feel free to hop in here. I see Sleepy wrote Vim. Yeah, I think that's one of them. So yeah, so Hard Hat is one of the big ones. Dimitro, I guess can you clarify your question? Because you wrote, how about smart contract audits? Are you asking if Immunify does any smart contract auditing? No, we don't do any auditing ourselves, and I don't believe we offer any auditing to other projects from White Hats.
What I know, we don't.
Yeah,
we don't offer any services.
I do believe that, and this is this is some alpha, but let's say if you are interested in that, perhaps message Mitchell or somebody, because should demand dictate it could happen.
Yeah.
The potential is there.
I guess
it's not the first time the ideas come up.
I guess if you guys bug Mitchell hard enough, maybe something will happen there. I don't know if there's that much of a demand. For maybe there is. Again, as we all know, I mean, would you have the normal what is it? Certic, Open Zeppelin, Trail of Bits have been. Quantstamp have been, at the front of this industry. Have been the brand names of the industry, and it's not uncommon for contracts that they have audited to have been exploited. So there could be something there. We'll see. So Kanan wrote, it's recommended to be a programmer before becoming a smart contract bounty hunter. To save time not Googling code, what do you think of learning to program on Coursera with university-style courses? That's interesting. I mean, I guess that could work. I guess everybody has their own learning style. Usually, most of the guys that I've run into are self-learned more so than university style in terms of just step-by-step like that. They've done more in terms of build, break, rebuild, iterate kind of mentality. But I wouldn't say it's the wrong path. It'd still give you a good solid foundation. So anything to help you get started, I think would be a plus. So if that's kind of the style that helps you learn the best, I'd say ride with it and go with it. But IRS is right. A lot of it is sometimes Googling code. But also, I think when it comes down to it, it's just understanding some of the logic within the code as well in terms of what's actually happening with the contracts and what's actually happening with some of the functions. Well, actually, Chika Ramen, I think it's interesting because you wrote there aren't that many universities that have blockchain courses. I'm not sure where you're situated, but here in the US they do, but it's not. Funny enough, it's not Solidity based code. Usually when they talk about blockchain, it's usually just the higher level in terms of what a blockchain does, the inner workings, like how it's situated. It's kind of more on the theory side of things. I was actually in an accelerator, I would say last year, and a lot of it was just about like the theory of blockchain, how that's being applied to a project or an idea, more so than a Solidity. So I think like in your case, like, or in your argument, like on the Solidity side, I 100% agree. But just on the theory side, they've been popping up more and more often.
I can't say that does kind of annoy me too, the way they've done that, because a solid weekend of Googling would teach you most of that. Whereas like learning Solidity is what would actually be useful for somebody to sit down with you and guide you through.
Yeah, exactly. And then there's definitely a lot of guys are chiming in here saying it's a lot better to actually just do projects. Agree. There's a lot of good tools. I think one of the ones that I started off with was Crypto Zombies, which is kind of just one that I push out just because it's fun. You get to build your own zombie on the using Solidity and understand the basics of some of the functions, like how Solidity is formatted. It's not, I would say, like in my noob experience, it's not, if you have some basic understanding of programming languages, Solidity is not too difficult to pick up. It's just, I wouldn't say it's the hardest thing to pick up. It's like, for me, I'm not the most technical person when it comes to development, but I was able to pick up some of the basic functions fairly easily. So, yeah, exactly. It's just really getting involved. Whoa, Iris, I didn't know you can get a master's on blockchain. I mean, I don't know how relevant that would be in like the Web3 space. Maybe in like a corporate world, but I didn't know that was available. Oh, that's cool. That's awesome. So best of luck to that. Go kill it, man. So what do some of you struggle the most with when bug hunting, when finding bugs? That makes sense, Sleepy. That makes sense. That's a good point. So yeah, so again, I think with like some of the bigger companies that are doing more formal work, like consensus definitely I can see them. Trail of Bits, yeah, you probably need some sort of degree there. I don't think, like when you're doing obviously bug bounty hunting, no one really cares about your credentials, really. If you can provide a valid POC, then I think that's good enough right there. It's good enough right there. So
yeah, if I'm not wrong, one of the guys we just awarded like a world record bounty to is just a teenager. Like he hasn't done shit besides that.
Yeah, and there's a few bounty hunters that are college students that are also studying CS in the middle of getting their degrees. Even high school students that have been finding bugs here too. So, hey man, like never too late and too early to start. How about the triage team? Can someone become a part of it, or you don't triage the bugs, only clients? I'd actually have to double check here for that. I'll ask. Let me ping Adrian because I don't have time. I don't have insight on that side.
I don't think we do triage like as a service.
I don't think so either, but I'm not 100% sure because I've seen it pop up a few times. So let's put it that way. Some of the most common non-critical bugs found on Amunify, it's just like certain like call functions that aren't very that don't break the contract or don't take funds. I would say more of the non-criticals happen on the web side of things more so than on the smart contract side of things. I mean, both are important, but I've personally seen more on non-criticals on the website more so than the smart contract side. Immunify bounty programs are all public or it's in private? Nah, man, they're all public. I'll share a link for you. If you just go into the website and just do explore bounties, it's all there. Every single thing, it's all updated, I would say, as long as there's a launch. But they're all there as they roll out. We post them up in Discord and Telegram, probably the two. So Discord, Telegram, and Twitter get the first pretty much announcement on any bug bounties that are released. Email just depends on how they're scheduled, but usually email is a good way too if you're too lazy to check on all the other socials. But yeah, either of those, you follow us on Twitter, you'll get an announcement almost immediately, like as it rolls out. Same with Discord, same with Telegram, and same with email. So, follow us on all of them. IRS, I'll see you later. Waffles, see you later as well. Chicken ramen, I'll see you as well. Again, if you guys want that POAP, send myself, Louvre or Valley a DM. I'll copy it over again. And we'll send you a claimable link within the 24 hours once it's ready. But if you guys get any more questions, throw them up. Hop on stage if you want. Don't be shy. We're all here to push this forward, to help each other out and really build an awesome community. Like we want to build like the best hacker community, in the space. Again, like I know I don't want to bring it up, but I know HackerOne's been there. They've delved into the space, but it's not as extensive as Amunify. I know it's a shameless plug, but if you kind of take a look at it, it's actually true in terms of size of bounties, ones that are available. Maybe HackerOne has a bigger audience, but most of their audience is not really Web3 based. So yeah, I mean, like I said, if you guys are on this hacker hangout, you guys are here. I think you guys are in the right spot. So we got a question from 242. How common buffer under overflows usually are nowadays within the EVM world? That's out of my scope, but you guys feel free to hop in there and see if you can answer his question. I don't mean to keep it on. Yeah, definitely, man. Keep on going. In terms of finding first bugs, you've gotten some guys that have taken like a few weeks, a few days. I know of one that got it in 30 minutes. So it just depends as well. I think you'll get there just by, plugging yourself into these environments and taking a look at these smart contracts and really get a lay of the land. So it just depends in terms of time frame for finding your first one. All right. So what are we coming up on? A little bit past 97. Yeah, Naxos, I'll see you later. Appreciate you for stopping by. Appreciate everybody for stopping by. But yeah, I mean, I'll leave this open for a little bit longer. Another awesome hangout. I believe we had I saw 55 at the top. So yeah, that's a plus. Good solid turnout today. But yeah, I'll leave this open for a little bit longer. If you guys have any questions, throw them in the chat, hop in the voice. Let me know. If you want that POAP, again, DM myself, Lou, Valley, or Parker, and we'll throw you a link over when it's ready. Yeah. So yeah. All right. I'll see you guys. I'll be here. So if you guys want to bounce, feel free to. Yeah, like I said, POAPs, send us a DM. We'll be available. Articles, send a request to Jonah if you got something prepared. Yeah, we'll see. Otherwise, if you guys are heading out, I'll see you at the next meetup. I'll see if I can get a featured guest. If you want to be a featured guest, send me a DM, and we'll make that happen. And yeah, looking forward.
Yeah,
to
we are
next one.
super open to featured guests. Seriously, DM us.
I know, but it's the first one was the first featured guest was like the top already. But we'll make it happen. We'll make you featured guests. We'll make you famous. Let's go.
Yeah, come unseat the king.
I know. So yeah, so I'll keep this open. If you guys got any more questions. All right, I'll see you later, Sleepy. I appreciate it. Sleepy, you should be our featured guest next time. If you want to do voice. If not, I'll feature you in the chat. Cuz you did write a good article and I got a lot of awesome feedback off of it. So for you to just provide some insight there would be sick. Yeah. Well, you can do it in chat if you want, man. I'm good there too. You could stay on. Doesn't bother me. But yeah, I mean, I'll DM you about it later at some point. If you change your mind. If we get over that, I'll do the speaking for you. How about that? But cool. I will leave this open for a little bit longer. I'll probably mute myself now for a little bit, and then I'll close this out in about like 5-15 minutes, something like that. And yeah, appreciate you guys for coming out to hang out with us. It's been another awesome session, and I look forward to hang out with you guys on the next one as well. Take me up on my offer, Sleepy. Let's go.